Hi, this is Jonathan Rosenhead, Jerusalem psychotherapist. This week's Torah and Psychology post are Parshas Mishpatim, and the war in Israel is titled A Broken Vessel. In this week's Parsha, we read about the case of a pit which is in the public domain, in the Rishus HaRabim. And if something falls into this pit, it discusses the compensation that the owner of the pit needs to pay. And the Gemara in Baba Kama discusses this case and quotes the pasuk and says that it quotes the pasuk of V'nafal shamar shor or chamor, that a shor or a chamor falls into this pit, an ox or a donkey. And the Gemara interprets this to say that the shor, when it says shor in the pasuk, the ox, is to the exclusion of people. When it says chamor, it's to the exclusion of vessels. This is the opinion of the Chachamim, and this is the ruling of the Gemara as well, which is not the ruling of Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Yehuda rules differently and says that vessels, kelim, should also be included in the compensation, in the punishment that the owner of the pit has to pay. And the Gemara continues and discusses the compensation that the owner has to pay, based on the pasuk in this week's parasha as well. It says, the Bala Bar Yishalem, Kesef Yashiv LeBaalo, V'hamet Yeh Lo. The pasuk is saying that it's working out an assessment, an evaluation of the compensation based on what fell in the pit, and what the owner of the pit will therefore have to pay. And the difficulty in this pasuk, which the Gemara points out, is when it says v'hamet, the death, what's died in the pit, is part of the evaluation. What is this death? What has died? If it's something which is living, we can understand that now it is fallen into the pit and has died. But if we're talking about vessels, according to the Chachamim Rabbi Yehuda, to the exclusion of vessels or the inclusion of vessels, what is this reference to met, to death? Vessels don't die. It doesn't seem to be relevant. And the Gemara answers and says that the breakage of a vessel is its death. It is no longer able to function. And it seems to be that the Gemara's answer is that it's equating the death of something which is living and vessels, even though it's an inanimate object. Something which is not living, but neither of them can now function. And therefore, we can use this reference, this terminology of death. But I'd like to just point out and say that although the Gemara is giving this theoretical understanding and being able to equate the death of something which is living and the death of seemingly the death of an object, this is actually how it's a comparison, but in practice we know that it's just actually an interpretation. The death of a vessel is based on how we interpret the significance of the vessel, what maybe sentimental value, the function of the vessel, the importance that we place, that we allocate to this vessel, gives this understanding and this significance or this interpretation of it being dead. But it's not dead. We know obviously that there's a difference between something which is living, a living being, an animal, and an inanimate vessel. There is a distinction, a clear distinction, between the death of something which is living and a vessel. But from a psychological perspective and sort of the cognitive perception and interpretation, it leads us to feel as if the vessel is now dead because it can no longer function based on the significance that we attach to this vessel. And when we think about human experiences, in particular when we face challenges and we fall into a pit, that we are damaged, sometimes we can feel as if we are like a vessel. We interpret it as if we are broken, that we are in pieces. But by viewing ourselves as a vessel, is actually what the Gemara is saying is that the owner of the pit does not need to pay for the breakage of vessels, because it's not a living animal, it's not living, it's inanimate, and vessels really don't die, and therefore the owner doesn't need to pay for it, because vessels, from a psychological perspective, we can say can be put back together again. Vessels, although they perhaps by breaking, it seems to be that they can't function, but they're not dead. They can be put back together, they can be turned into something else, something more beautiful. This is the post-traumatic growth, that if we interpret our struggles in the pit as being like a vessel, yes, it seems like, as the Gemara says, it is our death. We can't function, we can't go on. But the owner does does not need to pay compensation, because there is a way of putting the pieces back together again. There is a way of moving into post-traumatic growth and being able to function again, functioning from anew, maybe turning ourselves into a new and better vessel. So although when we are in the pit, like the Gemara is saying, it seems like it is our death, it seems like we are in pieces, but the message of the Gemara as well is that the owner is not punishable, does not need to pay compensation, because you can get yourself, because a person can get, and what we want to say is a person can get out of the situation, can put the pieces back together again. And I think this message is certainly pertinent to this time where we are going through, whether it's the soldiers, whether it's their families, whether it's Klal Yisrael in general, where we might feel at the moment whilst we're in a pit that we are a broken vessel, we are in pieces. But as the Gemara says, vessels are not punished, the owner is not punishable, because we can say that the pieces can be put back together, and hopefully this is what we're going to do. Through the challenges and the struggles that we are experiencing at the moment, we will recover, we will have the growth, and we will hopefully be able to put the pieces back together into something stronger and more beautiful, and to function from anew. And hopefully that should happen very soon. Have a great Shabbos and keep well.